Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. I'm really, really good.
I feel
think
like
it's crazy.
I'm always in the bright light and you're always in the dark.
I try. It's the way my lamp. There have been so many technical crazy shit going on.
Oh no.
I'm happy not. I got a friend that's going through it with me. Just wanted to.
Oh my gosh, the beast is with you.
It has
He
been
is
a beastly day.
he's the
Sorry,
cutest.
starting out like this.
Oh my god, he's the cutest. And you have your shirt on.
Yeah, I do, and everything. You kidding me? I'm ready. I have all my Yuletide Sandra gifts with me. I have a cat shirt, and it says, "Yeah, someone's probably gonna cry, and it is gonna be me because I'm a Cancerian, and I have my beast I can love."
You are a very watery Cancerian. You're an eyes watering.
We had a beautiful night last night. I cried so much during Celtic Women last night.
Oh my god, right.
I just cried. I cried for yesterday, for tomorrow, for all of it. It was me, yeah.
Yes.
As we approach Yule and the solstice.
I can't get over. I just got used to it being 2024.
Mm-hmm.
How is this about to be 2025? Anyway.
Oh, I can't even believe this was the quickest year. It was absolutely ridiculous. And we have a big show today. We have a lot we're going to talk about.
We do. We have a ton that we're going to talk about. Yeah. We do. We absolutely do. And so let's dive into it.
Get right into it. The
tarot. So it started off with you pulling a card.
I did. And I have to say, I pulled a card a little different. I was on the phone with Tim and he had a deck in front of me, him. And I said, pull a card. Well, I want to talk about what happened. Because at first I was going to be like, listen, we'll just go with the third pull. I don't want our last tarot card of 2024 to be anything with swords. But as he pulled from I think his first pull was the Three of Swords, and then I think it was the Nine of Swords. It was terrible. I want to say that because of the topic, I do want to mention that is a message that our words and our voice, because I see swords as not just its strength, and it's also talks about our weaknesses and the things we're going to work on. So stay strong. And forget I even mentioned the Three of Swords, but keep that little gem in the back of your mind to communicate well. Things don't have to end. If you love somebody, tell them. And if you don't, say bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I can jump in for 1 second, that Three of Swords is that. Oh, okay. Well, we've got a different card up on the screen right now, but
yeah.
Okay, but one thing about that Three of Swords, it's a warning against a technique that is commonly used by manipulative people, and it's called triangulation. And this is a warning to not get triangulated.
Mm-hmm.
This, as we come into a time when we gather around with family and we gather around, a bunch of people around us who may be experts at pushing our buttons, do not get triangulated against somebody else that could in fact be an ally. Realize when somebody is playing you and whipping you up and trying to get you to go against somebody that you don't have any intention of actually going against. Just be careful, because this whole Mercury retrograde with the communication that we are in the shadow until January 2nd. So we're not out of the woods yet. And this has been a horrible one for paperwork, communication, any kind of issues with transportation and technology. People reading, and this is why I think that card is so important for today, people reading tone incorrectly people attributing things to people's tone that weren't there, or maybe you're talking to someone and they're stressed out and you take it personally. You think they're mad at you because you can hear the anxious tone in their voice or the stressed out tone. So then you're like, are you mad at me? Don't personalize something that's not meant to be personal. Everyone is fighting their own battle, as the old saying goes. Just know that a lot of people, this is a stressful time for a lot of people. I lost my mom at this time of year. This is a broken-hearted time for me. So those 3 swords going in that heart, this is a tough time for me. And I have to put on the smiley face to get around everybody for the happy, happy holidays. But inside, I'm quite sad. So it's like, I get it. I understand why that card was pulled, and I want to honor that card for a minute. Now let's go to your choice.
Okay. So then after that, after a bit of chit chat, we pulled another card. Tim pulled the 6 of Wands for us today, which is great. It is representing a great new year that we're going to face with success and victory. It is about us having the advantage and becoming the spotlight, maybe like our own, our own personal hero in our own lives, as we kind of usher through any kind of things that hold us back or set us aside. And it is the opportunity for you to be heard, with confidence and letting that shine, sharing your victories with other people. Look at this, not just one wand riding high. There are many. So when you celebrate, make your own personal victories, make sure you're very choosy on who you choose to share your victories with too. Just as much as you choose to share your failures with, you have to make sure your supporters and the people that care about you are putting that spotlight on you and allowing you to be seen. So that's going to be, I honestly feel like next year is going to be a better year for us. We're going to be able to, with confidence, stand in our own little sunshine and allow our own personal victories and knowledge. This is a time for success and to turn away from all what we thought we failed. Maybe the difficult, rocky road is the stronger road where we gain our own personal strength. It is not through the easy journey that we get power. And that's not where we gain alliances. Our alliances and the people that surround us, they are part of who we are. Choose carefully who you want to walk into the world of success with, and choose carefully who you'd want to share 2025 with.
I agree with that 100%. I think it's so important to know who you can actually share victories with. And I shared some things on Instagram recently about this. It's easy to have friends that you can commiserate with when things aren't going well. It's harder to find people who can clap for you when things are going really well for you, especially if they're not necessarily going through the best time. It's like, if they can actually appreciate when you finally get your flowers, if they can finally, if they can clap for you when you're achieving something, even when they themselves may not be. But I do also think that a rising tide lifts all boats. And so when people are successful, they can wrap their arms around the people they care about and lift them up as well. And there's no reason not to. So it's about we all become empowered, and we all become, sort of self-actualized, I guess. So I love this card. I'm glad. That's good, because it's a victory. So we'll take it. I love a 6. The 6s are a sweet spot in the tarot. So I'm looking forward to that, because 2025, I'm really hoping beats 2024 in a lot of ways. So I think, yeah, I've got some positive feelings about it. And I wanted to share some ideas about some crystals that I think we're going to need to have in our toolbox for 2025. And one of the things is that we're coming from the year of the dragon into the year of the snake. And so part of that, psychologically, I say, okay, So now that we've kind of had our wings to be able to fly, now we got to come back down to the ground. Now we're still a serpent, but now we got to get grounded. We got to get back to reality. We had flights of fancy. Now we got to have reality. We dreamed big and all that other stuff for 2024, but now let's get real. So I feel like one of the things we need is like a tiger eye for courage. That's a lovely grounding stone. I feel like tiger eye also helps us, when we face our fears, which is I think it's going to be big. We're going to conquer a lot of fears in 2025. Unfortunately, that means we have to face them, but I think we're going to conquer a lot of them. It's also going to be a huge year transformation wise. So we have the snake, right? So that's shedding our skin. A lot of people need to come out from behind the mask. They need to come out of the witness protection program that they've put themselves in their lives and get real. So be real with people. Be honest with people. Say what's on your mind. Stop with the little white lies and the couching everything and the not rocking the boat and all this. No, it's time to get real. So shed that old skin, leave that behind in 2024. In 2025, we're going to move forward with authenticity. That's going to attract the people who we really deserve in our lives. That's going to attract the people that we really belong with. The more we wear a mask in front of people, the more we're attracting the wrong people, the more that we're trying to, do something to fit in with somebody that we don't even belong with in the first place. And stop trying to join groups that don't want you. That's another one for 2025. But shed that skin. So transformation, astrophyllite. I've talked about this stone before, the fireworks stone. We're making big changes for 2025. We need a powerful grounding stone that's also going to help us navigate our transformation, that's going to help us make change in big ways, fast, big changes. Boom, boom, boom. So we want that astrophyllite feeling. That's, it's got that powerful, but also grounded energy, right? And on top of that, I think blue calcite as a soothing, calming, because we need also the anxiety needs to come back down. We need to heal the emotional body and soothe the emotional body. So I'm feeling blue calcite for that. Other stones, yeah. I mean, if you've got an Amazonite, yeah, absolutely employ that. That would work well. Those would partner well. But I think we're having a blue calcite kind of moment. I think we need that soothing, calming, peaceful, as much as we're making big changes, we're going to need to heal the emotional body. I think 2024 was pretty traumatic. So the stones that I've talked about in the past that help heal trauma, get all of those out if that's where you're at. If that's what you're feeling, definitely get that team of stones working. And clear quartz. The constant hero. I can't say enough about how we need clarity of vision right now. So we need to employ that clear quartz. It's also going to help amplify all of those other stones that we're talking about because it is an amplifier, but it's going to give us that clear vision that we need to make the right choices in 2025 so that we can maximize our luck and have an overall better 2025. I'll never stop talking about pyrite in terms of finances. So if finances is something you're definitely working on in 2025, get the pyrite on board with all of that. And those would be my major. Oh, and one last thing, guys, we need the crone's wisdom right now. Youth is great and everything, but nothing beats wisdom. The seasoned advice of sages cannot be understated for 2025. Get out your black moonstone and get working with that crone energy because we love a smart queen. We love a wise queen. We need that energy for 2025. So definitely get those spheres working, guys. Right between those hands, work on those plans and get that wisdom going, make those smart choices for 2025.
Yay. I think this is a perfect season. It's the crone season as it is. Winter is here. And it's time for everything to rest so we can grow.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. I love it.
Do we have a forecast?
Now let's figure out what on earth is going on with those planets and how to best work with them as the year is turning.
Hello, ladies. Wow, definitely love everything you've said so far. Goes right into everything I was about to say, but love that you mentioned the year of the snake. I've always considered people who are born the year of the snake wiser or a little wise beyond their years, they say. So it's very interesting. You mentioned wisdom, of course. Snake is I actually did a video on my TikTok for Mercury retrograde. I got the card of the snake during Mercury retrograde, talking about transformations coming and letting go of things. So just again, right along with so many things. But yeah, we definitely tapping into that crony energy, that Saturn energy. Again, I'm always learning astrology, so I'm always learning new things. And I recently learned that this is more modern than traditional, but the three phases of a woman's life is Venus, the moon, and Saturn. So Venus is the maiden, the indulgent, focused on beauty and love and all of that. The moon is now taken those resources, now nurtures and provides for others. But a Saturn woman is now older. She's focused on her legacy and what she's leaving behind. She may seem a little cold, a little harsh, but she's the businesswoman, just like business people can be a little cold. So love what you talked about, tapping into that crony energy, that Saturn energy. The Saturn will conjunct our North Node soon as it moves. We're shifting nodes, and we're also shifting. Saturn is moving from Pisces to Aries, and we are shifting nodes from Aries to Pisces. So they're going to cross over. So definitely some Saturn energy. We've got the winter solstice coming up, and we'll talk about that real quickly here. I think Lou has a graphic for me. But here's the chart for Salem's winter solstice on the 21st. So it falls on a Saturday, Saturn Day. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and this is the beginning of Capricorn season. Some astrologers consider this like the new moon of the year because this is the darkest time, the longest night of the year, whereas the summer solstice could be compared to the full moon. It's the accumulation of everything we've worked for. So if we were to make that comparison, this is a time about planting seeds and really thinking about, time to go within and just reflect upon the year, think about what the seeds we want to plant. Now, of course, looking at the chart, the big thing that stands out to me is that grand cross. There is a big or grand square, whatever you like to call it.
I was just going to say, look at that giant square.
Yes. And
it's
unmistakable. That is the biggest thing that stands out. And it's all within the mutable signs. So we've got, Mercury in detriment in Sagittarius, Jupiter in detriment in Gemini. We've got the moon in Virgo and Saturn in Pisces. So when mutable energy, mutable signs are all about adaptability, right? They're the chameleons. They're about collecting information and also disseminating or discerning information. Gemini's collecting, Virgo is discerning, Jupiter is expanding the information, and Saturn is taking it to, in Pisces, is taking it to a whole nother level, which is a spiritual thing. So as we are approaching these North Node in Pisces upcoming, the spirituality is going to be a huge thing this year. And also weeding out those fake spiritualists or fake pop astrologers or the people that were just on it for the trend or the bandwagon. I mean, some of us have been doing this for our whole lives or many, many years, right? This is a journey for us. This is our path, our life. This is not just a trend for us. So coming into that energy of Pisces this upcoming year, we'll probably see a lot of those types of fake people falling by the wayside. But looking at this, winter solstice, this energy is going to carry over into Christmas, right? And the winter solstice energy here is really going to be a lot about discerning fact from fiction. That's the Gemini Sagittarius axis. Sagittarius is all about truth, and Gemini is like the two sides of the coin. We've got, the moon in Virgo. And so Virgo and Pisces is about bettering ourselves, taking that information, discerning what's going to help us and what's going to be need to let go for the sake of our health and for the sake of our spiritual health. So it's all about information. It's all about discernment. Like you talked about, Leanne, choosing who you're going to take with you and who you're going to unfortunately leave behind. But that is the lesson that we are approaching. Going into Christmas, Venus will perfect its square to Uranus. Uranus is the planet of revolution, chaos, and major changes. So there will be definitely restlessness, boring, but also excited at the same time, restlessness. So I would not be surprised, like Sandra, you talked about pushing buttons. This is that exact aspect of pushing buttons. And it will affect Venus energies. Venus is about our relationships, our love. So don't be surprised if there's fights or conversations about more freedom, more liberation. That's what Uranus is bringing. If you're bored, you may do something just to create some excitement. But there definitely will not be a boring Christmas. So be watching out for the pushing buttons energy, but also just the more free you are, the more comfortable you are in your space, the more easier this energy is going to be for Christmas. But yeah, we got that Grand Cross, mutable signs. Thing about mutable signs is, yeah, we're adaptable, but only a rubber band can be stretched so far before it snaps back. So in all this adaptability and things that we're kind of shifting to, we're also learning to discern and let go of certain things, right? Just talking about going into this upcoming year, one of the things is, also for the winter solstice, it will be squaring the north nodes and the south node. That's another thing that's happening for this Christmas. So that's interesting. We're going to be reviewing about the lessons of the nodes for the past 18 months. It's been in Aries and Libra. So we're finally shifting out of that. But if you're in Aries, the past 18 months, you have been focused on yourself, maybe reclaiming your own personal power, charging forth as a trailblazer, creating a new path. If you're a Cancer or Cancer rising, your career maybe was being the focus, or just your public image. You're reclaiming your reputation the past 18 months. Libra, it was, about relationships. Libra learned the value of the difference between codependence. You learned who was dependable, who was not dependable. You've learned to let go of toxic relationships, give more to yourself instead of giving so much to others. You've reclaimed your independence. And then lastly, Capricorn, that's the house of home. So this past 18 months has been all about your home life, reclaiming your inner peace, your sanctuary, and showing up for your family, probably. So now this shift will be 1/1/2025. So January 11th, it does shift into North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. So now the mutable signs will get hit for the next 18 months. If you've got Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, or Pisces heavy in your chart, you will feel this energy a little bit more. And it will be focusing, again, but the focus on the North Node, not only will I feel this will hit the spiritual community and people like us, but Pisces also rules fantasy. So even entertainment and Hollywood, we've already seen a huge major shift in Hollywood, right? And now I feel, in a way, it's made room for new creators to come up and new talent to show up. And maybe we'll see a whole revamp in the entertainment industry and how things are done there as well the next 18 months. But yeah, lots of things coming up. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes, but that's a little bit about for just Christmas and what we have coming up. One thing I would like to mention about Mercury in retrograde, yeah, it definitely was tough being opposite Jupiter, kind of expanding some of that energy, but also there's mutual reception. So mutual reception, Gemini is in detriment in Sagittarius because it rules its opposite sign, Gemini. Jupiter's in detriment in Gemini because it rules Sagittarius, its opposite sign. But when you have these two planets opposite each other, it's called mutual reception. So it's kind of like taking a trip to your favorite hotel, knowing, expecting to have the amenities there. When you get there, they don't have any of the amenities. You forgot your toothbrush, you forgot your wallet maybe, and now things are just going downhill. But you got your friend house sitting at home, Jupiter. Hey, I forgot this stuff. And Jupiter's going to send a little care package to you to give you what you need to thrive. And then, Mercury's doing the same thing for Jupiter, where Jupiter can't really expand as much as he would. Gemini's like, hey, yeah, I got you. Here's some stuff. So there's that mutual reception, which to me is also bringing very big into play the Jupiter square Saturn, and also just differentiating between fact and opinion. That's like a huge thing right now. And just information, so much information coming out. The Jupiter square Saturn, this is the second time this month it peaks. It will peak one more time in June. And what's interesting about this is Jupiter and Saturn, the two biggest planets in the sky, squaring off. There's big issues coming to the forefront. And 8 years ago was the last time we had a Jupiter square Saturn. Also, when there was very divisive issues in the country, when Trump was also elected the first time. So it's interesting, he was elected again, going into the same energy. So I do predict there will be very big issues, divisive issues. We just had this month, the CEO shooting. And then a couple days later, Penny Daniel verdict was not guilty. And it was it's very Gemini coded, Jupiter and Gemini coded, two sides of the same coin, in my opinion, where one who suffered mental illness, of the industry and ended up getting killed. The guy was released, and then the other one, Susie's CEO, and now it's a complete difference of how they're treating it. So that's the kind of big issues we're going to see. Like, this is a huge issue, right? Major issue. All kinds of things are coming into play with the healthcare system and Americans and our rights and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. So last time it will peak will be in June. So we might see these divisive big issues coming up and conversations about them, right? One thing I would like to just talk about is how we are shifting signs. All planets are shifting signs this upcoming year. So we already saw Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto was the first planet, and he's going to stay in Aquarius now. But we've got Uranus moving into Gemini. We've got Saturn leaving Pisces, entering Aries, Neptune entering Aries, Uranus going into Gemini, Jupiter going into Cancer. So all the outer planets, Pluto takes about 15 to 20 years to go through a sign. Neptune takes about 14 years. Uranus takes 7. And so all these planets,
this is all like generational shift.
Generational shifts.
We're coming into like a new generation where everybody born will have these planets in common at the outer parts of their chart. Whereas like in our generation, everybody's got those planets in the, once you get to the outer planets, everyone's got them in common. Everyone shares that in their chart when they're born in a certain time. And so we all kind of have that energy. We have pockets of that energy traveling, not just for specific people, but for whole generations of people. So we're about to see a huge change. So babies born in 2025 will have different outer planets than babies from 2024.
Right. And interesting. And Leanne, you probably know about this, but I'm also been learning more about Hellenistic astrology. And people talk about, people know the last degrees of a sign are called anaretic degrees or critical degrees, like the 29th degree is a critical degree, right? So a lot of these planets are going to be passing through critical degrees. But I was studying in this book, I'm learning about Hellenistic astrology, and found out that a lot of people don't really know where that came from. It actually goes back to way ancient astrology, back like way ancient to Egyptian astrology. They had these bounds, these Egyptian bounds, where every single degree was ruled by a particular planet, and all of the last couple of degrees, and it's different for each sign, so it's really hard to memorize. There's like kind of a weird pattern, but each sign, 30 degrees, is divided by 5, and it's not the same for each sign. So there's 5 different planets ruling all the degrees of each sign. So those last few degrees are always ruled by Saturn or Mars, which are the 2 malefics of the universe. So it's so interesting that this bounds degree chart, which had all the degrees split up into rulers of these different and all of the last degrees, the bound lords are the malefics. So it's interesting, Saturn.
Tim, tell me we're not heading into a world war.
No, but Saturn is a big player. Saturn leaving is going to be in a Saturn degree. So that's kind of cool that Saturn is going to be supported by the Saturnian energy. So I really feel that, like you said, Sandra, Saturn, crony energy, wisdom is going to be our secret key to get through this year. Learning what we've had. Now, this year was an eclipse year. So this was an intense year. Yes, I love that stone. So, back in the beginning of this year, we talked about major things happening, even from major weather stuff happening, earthquake, and it did. It happened. All the things we talked about this year have pretty much happened, a major intense weather event. So I do feel that's going to calm down, and I feel like we're not going to have those kinds of intense things. But this was definitely a major life-changing year. And next year, we are now becoming more discerning. We're changing our flexibilities with all of that. But yeah, so Uranus in Gemini, we've got Saturn moving into Aries. Saturn is going to conjunct the North Node as it's shifting. The North Node is all about our destiny. Saturn is about reality and bringing our dreams into reality. That's this other thing about Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and they're going to be there for several months in 2025. Neptune is like the highest bliss, our fantasies, our dreams, right? And Saturn is about reality. So this is like a time where we can really bring our dreams into reality. Not only do we have the North Node in Pisces, we're going to have Saturn conjuncting the North Node. So you magical people, need to be on your magic this year, because this is the year of manifestation.
Well, that's what I was just talking about with the dragon shifting into the snake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea of that serpent flying, but now, you know, losing those wings and coming down into the ground.
Yeah.
And sometimes going beneath the ground and tunneling under, entering that underworld where we get that knowledge and everything, and we have rest, like Leanne was saying. This is like perfect timing astrologically with what we see going on in the Chinese astrology. So
absolutely. And that just is a perfect analogy. Dragons are magical. They're intense, you know. And so this is a really big year, period. And so that, I love that analogy. It's so perfect because, yes, flight's of fancy. And now we got to look at, all right, how are we bringing that magic into reality?
Yep.
Kind of. So I really feel for my magical practitioners, this could be a really great year to up your game and really see some of the fruits of your labor. And it will, and like I said, with the Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is, you know, refining, restricting, and bringing accountability. Yep. So I'm already saying it all over all kinds of social medias of different spiritual practitioners being called out or being held accountable and other things. So I also have been trying my best to just make sure the information I'm putting out is verified and not copied and stuff like that. So, you know, we all have to do our part. But definitely this upcoming energy will be a year to think about these major changes. Now, one thing is that these planets aren't going to just like shift all January and then boom, we're on a new path. You know, think of it like you're going down this path. We're about to turn a corner. And as we're turning this corner this year, we're actually going to get a peak. We're going to be around the corner for a little bit, but then we're going to go retrograde. So like Saturn will be and Neptune will both go into Aries, but then they'll retrograde back into Pisces for a little bit. They will finally go into Pisces or Aries permanently in 2026, more into 2026. So 2026 is when the planets will be like firmly in the signs going forward. But this year we get a peak around the corner. We're going to go retrograde back into the sign, but we are preparing to turn a corner. And so we've been going this way for so long, and now we are literally turning a corner. We're going to be going in a completely different direction. So that could be good, and that could be bad. But if we're prepared, we can definitely use it to our benefit. And yes, so it's lining up.
Very good. Very good.
Very good. And I love you that you don't make Saturn into this, well, not bad guy, but
oh yeah, he can be a bad guy.
Is he or is it a he? Let's just really think on that for a moment.
Well, and I've been learning so much. Like I said, this year, maybe it's the Gemini energy with Jupiter, but I really have gone like I feel like I've increased my knowledge so much more than previous years when it comes to astrology, and I'm studying more things, learning ancient astrology, holistic astrology, all that stuff. But when I did the strength of my planets through Hellenistic astrology, Saturn is one of my strongest planets. And I was like, wow, but it makes sense, right?
We can't exist without rules. We can't exist without structure and form. And those are the things that Saturn does. So I'm not going to be afraid of what's coming. It's the wisdom I'm looking forward to. And maybe for a person like me with ADD, a little bit of structure, a little bit of more rules and boundaries, those have been good things in my life. So, yeah,
boundaries. Boundaries are great. And Saturn's kind of the, you know, the king of that.
So boundaries. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really super important. And I find it, while we have Jupiter, that's like expansion, and expansion's awesome. We can't just have unchecked expansion. Somewhere you got to put a fence. Somewhere you got to put a boundary line, you know? Absolutely. And so it's like, we have, you know, we can have expansion as much as we like, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, you need something. You need some, you know, like you said, structure. There's got to be a foundation. There's got to be a wall. There's got to be a, you know, so we definitely, that's like, when people start talking about one of my strongest patrons, Ganesh, and start talking about Ganesh and start saying, you know, the remover of obstacles. I'm like, yes, that's one thing, but he is the Lord of obstacles because sometimes he needs to place them. It's not all about removing them all the time. There are
Mhm.
some times that it's okay to say no. It's okay to stop doing something. It's okay
Mhm.
to say, I don't want to do this anymore, or I can't do this anymore, or I won't do this anymore. It's like that's okay. Sometimes we do that in our lives.
And
So,
Yep.
karma, people talk about karma like it's a bad thing, or oh, karma's going to get you. Like, what about good karma? What about reaping what you sow in a good
yeah,
way? What about
Yep.
all the work? Think back to 14 years ago, because it takes 28 years for Saturn to go around. Where were you 14 years ago? Because Saturn is making an exact opposition to that point where you were 14 years ago, and you're probably reaping all the work. So for me, 14 years ago is when I actually started my journey of studying astrology and doing
I was
readings.
getting
It was
married.
very, huh?
I was
I'm sorry?
getting married.
You were getting married. So look at your marriage has stood the test of time, and now and probably you're reaping the benefits. You're reaping what you sown, the good vibes, right? I'm
Absolutely.
reaping some good vibes around my business. My business has grown this year, and established a bunch of things that I didn't have before. So, and that applies to my 10th house. I'm a Cancer ascendant. You're a Libra, so it's your 7th house, relationships, right? So Leanne, where is your? Do you know where the North Node fell? You're also a Cancer, so it definitely
I'm
affects your
Cancer. Uh,
business as well.
yes. And
But
at
let's
that
see.
time, I was right around the time where I walked away from a business to work for that business. And now I own my business
Yep.
back again.
So even looking back, when we're talking about Saturn, maybe 14 years ago, think about where your life was. What happened that you started working on that you're now reaping the benefits for now?
Yep.
So
My
that's karma
career.
as well. That's karmic energy of
I
Saturn
had
as well.
what not to wear. I was on what not to wear.
Yeah.
And that actually started a bit of like, I don't know. I don't know. It's been good. I'd do
Yeah.
it again.
Yep.
All of it. I'd do it all over again.
And people are talking about like, oh, Neptune in Aries, that's like the Civil War, and Uranus in Gemini, that was World
Mhm.
War II, and there was major things happening back then too,
Mhm.
and there was major fights and whatever. It doesn't mean we're going to enter into a World War III this year, but my biggest thing is just that Jupiter square Saturn. Like we've already going through it all this year. It peaked once. This is the second time this month, and then next year, June will be the last time. So from the beginning of June, probably till June of next year, we will see this big like divisive energy of people. And the families will be split apart. Old friends will be split apart for politics, and I'm even seeing people being split apart. The CEO killing. It's crazy, but those are the types of issues that people will be. We'll be fighting over big issues, not little ones.
Right. Absolutely.
And
Yep.
some of these big issues have gone on for a long, long time, and now they're coming to a head. And that's what happens with these, when you got all these planets in these last degrees, these critical degrees, and it creates a sense of urgency, like we got to do something right now. So there will be that energy too. A lot of people will be like kind of grasping, with their, just really trying to dig into what used to be, the old ways, holding on to the way things used to be. There's going to be a lot of that, a lot of scratch nail marks of people
Yep.
not letting go. But yes, we are approaching a completely new energy, vibe, era, generation. Pluto and Aquarius is really bringing out more of that Aquarius energy even more,
Mhm.
which is great for the little people, for the underdogs, for the ones that need a little help fighting for our rights. That's that Pluto and Aquarius energy. So we'll see more of that. And while we do start to see some of the bigger ups and these billionaires, building what they want to build, it's very just as easily could collapse, and the power could be shifted to the people. So I
Mhm.
do see some positive things coming. Again, I don't think it's going to be as intense as 2024 with the eclipse. We had the huge eclipse this year,
Mhm.
and I just feel like that kind of overshadowed everything in regards to just intense things happening. And then the year of the dragon, of course, lining up with that. But yeah, that's in a nutshell some of the major things to look at. Of course, we're going to go over different things every single month
Yep.
and what to focus on for that month. But I think the
Looking
biggest
forward
thing
to
is, yeah, especially with winter solstice, we're talking about the dark moon, the new moon of the year, going in, planting seeds. And I really think this upcoming year will be very much about planting seeds so that when we finally turn the corner for good to go down that new path, 2026, now we can be watering and nurturing and growing instead of, oh my gosh, I forgot to plant. So think about some of that seeds you want to see grow in your life, maybe things you never thought possible because changes are coming, different things that are going to, that seemed impossible before could suddenly seem very possible. So just all this this winter solstice, that's what I'm going to be focusing on is the seeds I want to plant.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you, ladies. Happy New Year and
TimSoaringWolf.com. Get your transits done by Tim for 2025 so that it will personalize to you. Go to TimSoaringWolf.com.
Thank you, guys. Happy Yule, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Now, a topic that is so near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely. And
the
as a singer, this has to be the biggest thing. How you communicate with voice and sound is extremely important to your magic, into ritual.
Yep. And the idea that you know, from the standpoint of how we sound, to the details of what we're saying, you know, it's all in there. The idea of, I just want to touch on the idea of the power of voice. So we've got, going back into mythology, we've got you know, we've got Echo, we've got the sirens, you know, we've got the sirens, we've got Odysseus stuffing his crew's ears so they can't hear the song of the sirens, and he's lashing himself to the mast of the ship because he wants to hear the sound but not be able to react. He can't, he knows that if he hears them and he's able to steer the ship, he's going to steer the ship to its doom. So he lashes himself to the mast. He wants to hear it and live to tell the tale. He wants to be able to tell people what the sound is. What is this great voice that these sirens are using to lure all these sailors to their deaths, you know? And so we've got this idea, you know, rooted in ancient times, that the voice and the sound of one's voice can be that powerful, that it could steer crews to their death. You know, the idea that just from the sounds emanating from us, that it could be that powerful. And the concept, I mean, look at Ursula. She stole that Little Mermaid's voice.
Yes, she did.
That Little Mermaid's voice. I mean, these are characters from, you know, from mythology all the way up to common, you know, Disney, right? So we've got this concept.
And it's also the voice in itself. It can heal people through how many lead meditations can lowered my blood pressure or helped the way somebody think, to control someone's sleep, guided meditation as you sleep, certain sounds. I have recommended more clients to listen to vibrational music to heighten your psychic ability, to gain connection to higher power, to communicate with the angels, to gain some kind of communication with the gods. Yes. Tons of vibrational music. And in some say that music is the language of the divine, is sound.
Well, think about it. In nature, at its most basic, in our natural world here on this planet, animals are using calls. they're using certain sounds to indicate maybe they're trying to attract a mate. Maybe they're trying to warn off, somebody. They're sending out the call that says F around and find out. They're sending out, and when you hear an animal make a noise, you can kind of tell what that noise means. When you listen to Sadie, you can tell when she's issuing a warning, when she's, barking because someone's coming up the driveway, when she's barking because she wants something, give me a treat, or let me out, or what have you. There are these sounds that they're making. They're not even using language that we understand, but we've come to understand their language of sounds. And so sound in and of itself is just doesn't even have to be words. And this concept is in magic, as you know. If you know, you know. I'm not going to say certain ones, but there are certain sounds. They're kind of nonsense sounds. They're not normal words that we use in our normal everyday life, in our mundane life. Let's put it that way. In our everyday mundane life, these words are keywords. So they're sounds that we're making that unlock certain things in our minds, the same way that an animal might use a sound to convey something in an area. We are doing that same thing. We're using certain sounds that are not the sounds we normally make in our day-to-day, and those sounds matter in magic. So when we are doing something where we're looking to include that vibration, which is so important, that's really the biggest part of the great voice, is the vibration, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But the idea of these words like abracadabra, which has made its way into, the common people, even people that aren't into magic, understand when they hear that, they think, oh, someone's doing magic, right? It actually has a magical purpose, but it's kind of worked its way into like popular movies and things of that nature, and so when you hear that, whether you know the actual magical use of that word, or you don't, you think to yourself, oh, magic's happening. And there are words like that and sounds like that we use in magic that alter our actual brain waves. Right?
Yep. And also your voice depends on how people perceive you, especially in ritual. It is your voice of power. It is something to be learned. What do you sound like? How is this going to work?
Definitely.
The person with, it's not necessarily the person with the loudest voice that carries the most power.
Yeah.
It is tone. There's so many different things before you speak that you must think.
Yes, absolutely. But what you bring up a very good point, because one of my favorite comedians, Susie Eddie Izzard, has a bit about Stonehenge and goes on to say Stonehenge is in a place that feels very and you wouldn't want to put Stonehenge in a place that feels very and it's like a hilarious bit. And this is a bit from like 20 years ago.
That was one of the first ones you showed me. Yeah.
Right? It's a hilarious bit. And it makes sense. And it's like, it explains the idea of the tone of sound, because that's how that bit is funny. Those two sounds and the difference between them. So when someone gets up in the circle to do a summoning, like let's just say something that a lot of people will understand, like calling the quarters. When someone gets up to do that, you do sort of expect they're going to use a certain tone, a certain type of language, and even maybe a certain accent or lack thereof, so that everybody in that space can get into that kind of group mind, that sort of hive mind, where we all are envisioning something, one of the mighty ones, right? So you don't want that person to get up and be like, all right, y'all, are y'all listening to me? Are you fixing to come into the circle? Are you fixing to? Come on down now. Come on into the circle now. You hear me? I mean, like, that wouldn't do it for me.
It'd be me, my Revere accent. Why don't you come over here and park your car? Do you want to park your car over here?
So yeah, I'm not saying we have to all be thee and thou and thy and and thine and I'm not saying that you have to sound like you're talking from 2,000 years ago. All I'm saying is there's a certain, I think we all kind of know there's a certain sound that we're sort of going for in sacred space,
And that's not even just in group practice. When I am in front of my shrines and I'm saying good morning or preparing my special space that I have filled with beautiful incense and smoke in a statue, my voice changes. It's how I carry myself. When the mouth starts moving a different way and I'm thinking about my actions and my speaking, I feel the priestess that I am coming out of me.
Yes.
It's not like, hey, what's up? What you doing? There's a reverence and my action.
Right.
There are moments where I communicate with the divine in a very, this is me, I'm your child. I love you. I'm not going to take a minute. My Boston accent will come out. But when I'm preparing my shrine and I am cleaning and talking and singing and really feeling one-on-one, my voice changes. Yes. I have the great voice within me. We all do.
Right. And I want to quote Patricia Crowther for a second, because she did write. She is one of the people that has written about the great voice in the craft. And so from The Lid Off the Cauldron, she says, the essential purpose of calls is to stir the blood and make it quicken. For without these sonics, which literally thrill, any magical work will lack in potency. The ancient cries were always sent forth on the wind from a hilltop or other desolate meeting place of the coven. The invoking calls were given by the leader before the commencement of the rites. It is imperative that all present feel the sounds deep within themselves, so that they are calling inwardly as well as outwardly. In other words, we are attempting to raise our own consciousness to a higher level in order to be heard and answered by inner intelligences. Now, more on that. In the context of ritual, and particularly within ceremonial magical traditions, the great voice refers to a powerful, often imagined or mystical sound that is believed to represent the voice of a deity or the universe or a higher power, experienced during a ritual practice, sometimes through vocal techniques like chanting, but vibration is a part of it. The vibration of sound, where the practitioner projects a deep and resonant sound to connect with that higher energy. And deep, not necessarily deep notes, not like deep in the sense of, I'm going to talk down here. Deep resonance. Deep.
Why did I think that was so funny?
Okay. And so this basic aspect of magical training that Crowley used, and it was described in Liber O, according to that text, vibration involves a physical set of steps. And you can look this up, if you've got the book, look it up. Starting in a standing position, breathing in through the nose while imagining the name of the god entering with the breath, imagining that breath traveling through the entire body, stepping forward with the left foot while throwing the body forward with arms outstretched, visualizing the name rushing out when spoken, ending in an upright stance with the right forefinger placed upon the lips. So this is a technique that Crowley taught, and the success in this technique is signaled by physical exhaustion, and though only by the student himself is it perceived when he hears the name of the god vehemently roared forth, as if by the concourse of 10,000 thunders, and it should appear to him as if that great voice proceeded from the universe and not from himself. That's a direct quote. So the great voice is an emanation, the actual great voice. I mean, we've been talking a lot about the power of the voice, but the technique itself that's known as the great voice is as if you are channeling that sound. The sound is not just coming from inside of your body. It's like it's roaring forth from the universe. It's bigger than just one person. It's bigger than just the sound. It's the vibration that you are unleashing in the sound. You're bringing it forth. And so that's like something you feel through your whole entire body. It's something that resonates deeply within you. And it doesn't have to even be loud. You can have that resonance and be relatively soft. It's the vibration, and that takes more. I think that takes more work. I think using the great voice in a loud manner is easier than using the great voice in a soft manner. So it's like you really have to be able to resonate that intonation, that vibration from within you, and that's harder. That's actually harder, I think, just as somebody that's practiced this technique, practicing it and having it be softer is tougher, because it's easier for us to feel the vibration when you're loud. You know what I mean? You can feel it a lot more when you're loud. There's more air moving. I mean, that's just a fact, but energetically that vibe can come and resonate, from a whole other place. It's not just the air in your lungs. It's not just pushing out a ton of air really loud. It's different than that. And so working on that and mastering that is, so it takes some doing, but it's worth
magic.
it.
It's magic.
It's worth it. I've often said that I'm a bard, because I'm a singer, and I love to tell a good story. I am also a poet and a writer, so I feel like I align myself, with the idea of the bard. Sometimes Sean called me the bard of brutality.
Yes, it's so weird you mentioned bard. Excuse me for a moment.
Yes.
Literally reading this
from the Obod.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. I got this in England.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the bards historically were poets and storytellers and musicians, and they trained in bardic colleges. Actually, they trained, but they were known for the ability to inspire. And I'm thinking right now in terms of the stirring way that you can inspire with your voice. In Braveheart.
Yes.
That speech he gives.
Of course. Yes.
I mean, you want to talk about something that gets the blood rushing. I mean, that is such a stirring speech, and he galvanizes that entire army of people, and it's just that's what I'm thinking when I'm thinking about, how someone could inspire with just the sound of their voice and also the words, of course, but he's got a tone in that. He's got a sound that even if you didn't speak English and you were hearing that speech, You would be getting riled and fired up.
You'd just be ready.
You didn't even have to understand a word that come out of his mouth. You would be fired up listening to that, right? That's the energy.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
the energy.
And
so
that's the energy before ritual we'd want too. We want people inspired. We want people coming in with, you know, ready and open. That's why this is so important.
Yes. And bards were known to enthrall people. They were known to be able to, you know, to convince people all manner of things. And it was considered magic, you know, what they did with their songs or their, you know, their poems that they would recite and things. It's like they were powerful. And we have some of these people among us today. I'm telling you, and you can think of some of the people that have made billions of dollars singing. And you might think to yourself, this is not necessarily the absolute most talented singer in the whole world, but is like one of the richest people in the world right now because of the singing. And it's like, wow, okay. Like when you can enthrall with your voice and your performance and you have that energy and people go crazy.
Yes, they do.
You know, and so that's powerful. That is the power of a voice. And what you do with that voice can be so important, you know, because you can change history with your words. And I had a student one time who was talking about the tradition and leaving the tradition and saying it's just words. And I thought to myself, maybe I failed this person because I didn't convey enough the importance of those actual words, or why we would want to have a tradition at all, and why specific words would matter, why the proven formulas should be handed down. But it's like with anything else. It's like in medicine. When you come up with a drug that works to make changes in somebody's body to help them, you don't throw that out and say, oh, let's start from scratch and see if we can do it a different way now. You keep that formula. Like there are drugs that people are on today that were developed 80 years ago or more. We're not going to throw those drugs out just because, you know, I don't know, just because we could send somebody into a lab and go, come up with another way to do this. If that drug is still working and not having bad side effects, we will continue to use it because it's proven. It's proven to work, and it works for a great amount of people. And so the tradition is like that. Those words are, you're walking in the steps of somebody that said those exact words 50, 60 years ago. You're walking in the steps of somebody. You're walking in the steps of thousands of people that have said those exact words. And when you're summoning entities, or you're welcoming deities, or you're doing things where you're making calls out into the universe, you don't throw away the phone number and start from scratch and try dialing it yourself. You use the phone number you're given to call somebody. It's like, why? I mean, if you want to embellish, go ahead and embellish. Nobody's saying that you can't. The recipe for baking a cake has been the recipe for baking a cake for like a century plus, right? And you can make a chocolate cake, and you can make a lemon cake, and you can make a red velvet cake, and you can change up the flavors as much as you want, but you're still going to go flour, sugar, eggs, like that. There's a recipe for cake, okay? And it works, and it's worked for, you know, since your grandma's grandma was making a cake. And so why would we throw out the cake recipe? If we want to change it up, we add some things, we mess with it, we experiment with it, we put layers on it, we stack it, we put it in shapes, we do whatever we want, but the fact is you still got the basic recipe for cake there. So is it all just words? Not really. There are reasons that there are formulas, there are songs that are to be sung the way that they were originally written. And it's powerful to be able to sing those songs together. And if everybody's just changing the words to whatever they want, then it just sounds like a big mess when we all sit down and sing together. And the reason that you would carry those words forward is so that you can do this together. If you're one person standing alone, then I guess it doesn't really matter. You can say whatever you want and no one's getting lost next to you going, what are you doing? But when you're in a group and you're looking out beyond yourself in the magical space to welcome everyone in, we do teach the people what to say. So we're all saying it together. That's why you would do that. You know, you do it so that you can practice together. That's the point. You know what I mean? That's part of it. You know, connecting outside the circle and connecting inside the circle. That's why we do it.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Finding your voice can be one of the most powerful and life-changing experience, whether you're using it for circle or just finding your own voice, you know.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, you know, the idea of and I'm not going to say that it's not powerful to write your own liturgy. I've been doing it for decades. Of course it's powerful, but that's not how we set up the space together, because we're setting up the space together in a way that we all understand.
That's the joy of being in a tradition, right?
Yes.
That's the makes you feel safe. You know what you're walking into. You know that someone is not going to change it up on you or make you're already prepared. So there's no need to feel uncomfortable or unassured. Especially when you're part of a tradition where you know someone else is saying the same thing on the same night, doing the same thing. So now you're creating this energy within yourself and in the world, you know.
And if you've ever been to one of those huge concerts,
yes,
and you've ever been sitting there looking up at that stage with that performer singing that song, and every single person in that audience is singing along with that chorus, and everyone's hands are moving together, and it's like a drug. Being in that energy with thousands of people singing that together, the vibration is so powerful. It's like, oh my God, it's the fever pitch that you get to in that moment is just unmatched by sitting at home with your earbuds in, listening to the song. It's not the same.
Not the same.
Now you can be on an inner journey in that moment with your earbuds in, and you can go on an amazing inner journey all by yourself, and that's great. But it's different than the energy you get in a huge stadium full of people, or, you know, a huge theater full of people singing that same thing together, and everybody knows the words. And if that person on the stage suddenly goes off and starts singing a completely different thing, you're all going to kind of be like, huh? What just happened? We're all out here singing the chorus and you're singing something completely different. What's going on here? You know? So there's a comfort, like you said, a familiarity, and there is a power. There's just a power to everybody knowing what those words are, and everyone's identifying on some level. And that's another layer of it, is a lot of these songs, the reason they're so successful is people are really feeling those feelings while they're singing those songs. They're either remembering something that happened, or they're envisioning something that they want to have happen, which is why so many proposals happen at these concerts, because people are just trying to embody what's going on in those words. And so that's what's so powerful about that. And I'm drawing that correlation in, for the great voice, because it's a mundane / magical crossover. It's a phenomenon right now. It really is. It's a phenomenon. And I think it's fantastic, but it really does prove the incredible power that our voices have. I sent you a lullaby last night.
Yes, and I went to sleep. It was great.
To a vocalist that
Beautiful.
you weren't familiar with.
Nope.
And I mean, that was a very beautiful way to fall asleep.
All of it.
And that, I'm not going to send you, let the bodies hit the floor, let the bodies hit the floor. Like there's a time and a place for that type of music. And it's not when you're trying to fall asleep at night. It's like maybe you're in a boxing gym and you're hitting the heavy bag to that song. Likewise, I wouldn't send somebody the song I sent you last night as a lullaby if they were working out and say, hey, punch the bag to this, you're going to love it. They'd probably be like, are you kidding me? It's a snooze fest. Like, different songs for different, there are songs that I shouldn't play when I'm on the highway because I'm going to end up speeding. Like they're different music and different lyrics are going to affect you differently. And that's just a fact. I mean, that's just a simple fact. And it works that way in magic too. The words are going to matter. The words actually do matter. They're going to make us feel certain things. They're going to call to mind certain things. And the way we say them, the tones we use, the sound of our voices, the vibrations that we use, that's all going to matter.
Absolutely. People have died and fought for words, for ability, for our freedom of speech. That's right there. So words definitely do matter. They matter when we write our laws, and they matter music. My goodness, let's just think Freddie Mercury on the mic. I could cry. That was amazing. And most recently, Chappelle, what's her name? Chapel Rowan. I watched her, Chapel Rowan, do her Pink Pony Club, and she just took the phone. She took her mic and dropped it for a second. She didn't need to sing. Everybody else was.
Oh, every single person.
One being. It's how we become one. Is through our sound and through our words. And if we can all just think how beautiful it was if we could all learn the same words so that we say it together. So in that unity, we become one. That's beautiful.
That's what that right there. That is what it's about. It's about connection. It's about that connection, us connecting to the gods and higher entities, us connecting to each other, and understanding that that is all one connection. What connects us to this earth and all of its beautiful creatures, the plants, the rivers, all of it. That connection that we have with the sacred, the connection we have with the divine, the connection we have with each other, that is all how we communicate. How we communicate with each other defines those connections, and it helps build those connections, and it can destroy those connections. The words that we say to each other, they can hurt, they can heal. These words are so important. The sound and the words being in alignment are so important. And us being true to our word and true to our voice is absolutely imperative. The idea that we can stand behind our word, that we would give our witch's word, that we would be accountable for our word, that we would be responsible for what we say, and that we follow through with what we do. That's the whole thing right there.
It's all of it. It's all of it. And then if we're thinking we could do a whole segment on this, like a whole thing on the word, our voice, but also how to listen.
Yeah.
Magical listening.
Yep.
Can you hear? Do
Yeah.
you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
The words matter.
Yeah.
Hear us.
And the silence as well. There's power in the silence. There's power in the absence of the word. There's power in secrets. There's power in holding back the word. There's power in only allowing certain people to know the word. There's power in having to earn the right to learn the word. That's all a part of it as well.
It's to protect the word.
Ultimately, it's to to safeguard us. Ultimately, the word will be fine. The word itself will be fine. It's to protect the people. It's to protect the hidden children of the goddess. So
yes,
that's a piece of it.
Yes.
So
wow.
Well,
I want to say happy solstice to everyone.
That's all there is to say about the word.
Yeah, that's it.
Not really, but for
now.
For what's supposed to be a 1-hour show, I think we've done our due diligence.
Yes, we did.
And definitely, yeah, delve into it. How can you use your word? You can speak your intentions when you light a candle or do other forms of magic. You can use mantras when you first wake up. You can use mantras right before you go to sleep. Speak them into existence. You can speak to your crystals when you program them. So if you're working with crystals, you can speak to your crystals. Go ahead and talk to them. Tell them what you need and ask them if they'll help you with it. You can speak to your beloved dead. You can speak out loud as if they are in the room. Set a place for them at the table and look across the table and talk to them. There's a lot of ways that you can use your voice magically to empower yourself, to work your spells, to work your magic. And we're going to carry that use of that voice right into 2025.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the next time we're on this, it'll be the new year. It'll be the new common era, 2025. So
absolutely. Yeah, let's all have a good one.
So tend that flame overnight, guys, for the solstice. Tend that fire, the Yule log, as it were, and have a safe holiday trip if you're traveling. Have safe, and hopefully you'll have peaceful and and happy interactions with family and friends. And we'll see you in the new year. Here you go again. You said